Good afternoon. Namaste. It's 4 p.m. This class is for level 2 and level 3. It's called Developing Your Spiritual Abilities and Finding Your Passion and Purpose. So there's a lot of development in class 2 that we talk about. It can get pretty intricate. I'm going to go ahead and start doing my setup, check my sound, pull up my live controls, and go from there. So give me just a moment while I do that. So I'll need another browser to see your questions. All right. Doesn't look like we have anybody here yet. But if you are here, please let me know by just giving a little hi, how you doing in the live chat. If you're learning how to use Patreon for the first time, I like to do a sound check first, though, before I get started in explaining all this. And once people actually enter, because we're just a couple minutes early. So once I see that someone is watching and someone is interacting on chat, then we can get started. Saw one viewer, but then she popped off. So hopefully you guys are here. Just give me a little hi in the live chat when you pull up your YouTube live stream. So this is how you do it for those of you who are watching me for the first time. If you're pulling this up from Patreon, don't stay there. Scroll your mouse over the title up in the top portion of your screen there. And what you want to do is just kind of scroll your mouse over it, especially if you're on a smart device and you don't have a mouse, scroll your finger over it and tap. A double tap on a smartphone or an iPad, if you're not using a mouse, should also pull you into a new browser, into your YouTube Live browser, where you'll get to interact with me. Right now, we only have one person here. If you can hear me, give me a thumbs up in chat. Otherwise, I will not know, based upon live chats, I will not know that my microphone is working and that people can see me and things of that nature. So, because I only see like one person watching and no one's talking in chat yet. Still see one person. I guess we'll wait a couple of minutes, whoever you are, one person. People must be busy with the holidays right now. I'm going to assume that you can watch me. So if you do have a mouse and if you are using a device that has a mouse, what you want to do from Patreon is just to scroll your mouse over the title of the video, click on it. It will bring you up into YouTube live stream where you will see a live chat. And that is how we actually interact. I cannot interact on Patreon during the live vlogs and during the live classes. I can during the channelings because I go into trance and I normally have an interviewer interview me and watch all your questions, but I cannot do that once we start a program in a class or a live vlog because it's just me. So hopefully when you start to listen to the material, which again, this is level 2, it's recognizing and developing your spiritual gifts, passion, and purpose. We'll be able to interact because it is based upon your questions. Oh, we got one person. Is my sound working okay, Katie? If I can just get one person that lets me know that my sound and video, hi Bonnie, is working, with a little yes in chat there, then I will know that we can go ahead and begin. Because I don't like talking to myself. Hi Damien, hi Bonnie, hi Katie. Give me a yes, can you? Like I see you typing, but oh yes, thank you. I just need to check it. I will not start a live podcast and talk to myself. And then someone says, nothing is working about halfway through because I don't have that kind of time and neither do you. So thanks for being here, level 2s. It's a lot of fun. It really is, these classes. They are developed around the topics that you see. This is a surprise topic where we're going to be talking about some unique things about frequency that I wrote down in my journal this morning. I channel my classes new every morning. I write them down and then we talk about them. As I am giving you the channeled information for today's topic, I want you to start typing out your questions in chat. And then when the guides advise me to look up, I'll look up every now and then and sort of, listen to your comments and respond to them. And that's normally how it goes. Okay. So we're talking about the dissolution of today. The topic is dissolution. That is an ancient alchemy word. And when I use it in emotional alchemy, I talk a lot about dissolving ego, but not ego forms like you think they would be. More like ego and fear, not ego arrogance, not ego anything other than just fear and shame and things that are really, really absolutely useless for you for the most part. So old forms, paradigms of religion, political structures, fear and judgment are the biggest forms of ego that need to dissolve in order for your unique spiritual gifts to be more apparent. Because the problem is not that they're not there. The problem is that you are looking for them in a way that you are judging based upon what society teaches you they should be. What does it mean when you are told your guides are changing? Most of the time when you hear that and you get that sense, or if a teacher tells you they're changing, that means you've learned so much that that guide has fulfilled that portion of the contract to help you learn whatever your life purpose was during that time. And then they are needed no longer. The contract is fulfilled. So you will get more guides if that makes sense. For those of you who are just entering, today we have 30 minutes. Normally, I very generously give an hour, even though I've only promised in my marketing 30 minutes per class and an hour to an hour and a half per channeling. But today it will actually only be the 30 minutes that I normally promise, which is the first time. And that's because some very unique circumstances are happening in my life. And today is not a day that I can go a full hour because I got to go be with my family. Holidays can be that way sometimes. So let's talk about disillusionment. That is the problem. It's not that your gifts aren't there. It's that you are feeling that they should be a certain way. And until you dissolve paradigms that teach you that they should be external from you, you're going to keep thinking that they're not there. Okay. Next question about spirit guides. Are they a different part of your soul? It really, really depends. In essence, nothing is truly a different part of you because we are all one. If you understand unity from a non-dualistic standpoint, nothing can be completely separate. However, there are some that are more active in you, and I call those dominant guides. And they are actually aspects, fractals, if you will, of your divinity. And those dominant guides are more integrated aspects of you. Subdominant guides are less interactive and less, well, not always less interactive. Mine is very interactive, but less integrated aspects of you that you recognize as separate. You may need to recognize them as some, big bad princess or king or something because you don't view yourself as worthy enough to claim that part of you yet. So they will put themselves out there in a different way. Good morning, India. Barca, rather. Yeah. Thank you for your gratitude in that, Bonnie. So let's talk further about dissolving ego in terms of shame, fear, and judgments, because those are the main blocks for your spiritual gifts not being apparent. We talked about this in my very first level too, and it got pretty deep. So let's talk about that again and how that shows up for you. So these are some of the things that I wrote down to talk to you today. One thing, you may have little certainty left about who you are when you're just starting to wake up like this. In the beginning stages of spiritual awakening, where everything is falling apart around you, it's okay to fear uncertainty. Give yourself permission to not know. There was someone in my spiritual community today who I just think is like the bomb. I just watch her all the time and respect how she's growing, and she's so curious and conscientious. And she was talking about earth angels today. And I was watching it and kind of following along very curiously because I just find it fascinating when angels don't know they're angels. And she's like, so how come people say that angels don't incarnate? And I'm like, people say all kind of stuff. Stories are stories are stories, and they help us be creative and they help us learn. But at some point, it's helpful to just say, okay, these stories are beautiful. Yes, teach me because they're fascinating, but don't have a yearning for them, like a burning, yearning, aching for them, as if you need to know, because that is what I call attachment, which is one of the biggest forms of disillusionment that keeps your ego in a place of blocking your true divine nature and your gifts and your purpose. Attachment is a big, big deal. And it can be in a physical level. For me, my biggest attachments are physical. I really love like caffeine. So in the morning, I have like a full cup of tea or coffee, and my master is trying to get me off of it, but I've been doing it since 6th grade. So that's my particular vice and attachment. It's not an emotional one. Maria asks, I know I have telepathy, but for some time I get a lot of static of 100 different voices. Yeah, I'd say that's telepathy. Could be trees, rocks, animals, people. It sounds like radio static. How to focus on one? You don't. I feel like you're trying to talk to collectives. So you need to discern the differences between the tree collective, the crystal collective, the mineral and rock collective, the animal collectives, and the different versions of the animal collectives, and the different versions of the human collectives and what level they're operating on frequency-wise. And that'll help you kind of choose. When you ask to hear and you ask to know and you ask for an influx of telepathic response from the universe, it comes in. It's sort of like having, if you're a trucker and you have one of those radios that go a grand distance. I don't quite know the names of those. I'm sorry. Names elude me at times. You know what I'm talking about? Those trucks, the big 18-wheelers have the radio, the very, very long radios, and sometimes they have static and they pick up everything. Oh my goodness, they pick up everything. I rode with a trucker once just for fun. She's a client of mine, and she's like, I'm going to come pick you up from the city. And this is when I lived in Las Vegas. And I'm going to ride you around, just through these areas and let you listen to, and then I'll drop you off on the way out the city and you'll park your car there and then you can go home. It was a fun little thing. And for about an hour, I just sat there and listened to her radio, and it was hilarious. CBs, that's what they're called. Yes. So it's kind of like that when you are activating your telepathy and you're activating your clairaudience. Those two normally go hand in hand. And when you begin to get the voices, you'll also get static from different collective kingdoms, and it will feel different and sound different. So the recognition of that unique gift starts at the static. That tells you how well you're tuning in or not. Static just means you're changing stations. It doesn't mean anything bad. It just means you're kind of losing a signal while you're trying to ascertain another one. So every single time you say, well, what's that and what's this? It's like, turn station, more static. And then it'll come in more clearly when you get the right collective that you are trying to pick up on. So when it's not really the right one where you say, I'm trying for the trees, I'm trying for the fairy elementals, I'm trying for the ones in the sky, the sylphs. That's a different group that are very unique that I like to connect to considerably. You can do that, but sometimes when you don't know what you're getting, it's static because you are subconsciously switching channels because your brain's going, "Ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that? Ooh, what's that?" I call this telepathic ADHD. It's incredibly fun. So I'd like for you to just observe this a different way, Maria. You see what I mean? Observe it a different way. So back to disillusionment. Again, you're going to have little certainty about who you are in your personality. I've changed so much that when I recently saw my child, which was yesterday, after a 2.5 long custody battle, and I won, and I actually had detectives involved. It was crazy, and the detectives had to go find him, and all this kind of stuff happened. But anyway, he hadn't seen me in several months, because of all this. And he looked at me and he's like, he did like this. And my heart about broke into it. He didn't recognize me. I had changed so much. And he had to take a moment. He had to listen to my voice. He had to kind of watch my behavior. And then he looked at his brother and he's like, and he recognized him because that being had not shifted very much, but I had shifted immensely in the past several months that he has seen me. Thank you. So he was just like, I don't recognize you and I don't doubt what you're saying, but I don't really know what to do right now. And I'm like, well, just kind of sit with me for a moment. You'll start to feel it in a second. And here's your brother, your other brother's in the car. We're about to go get your sister from school. So keep in mind that your brothers would not be here if I wasn't who I am. And he started smiling and laughing. He's like, okay, I'm recognizing you now. It's okay. But it was a weird thing for him. And it was even more weird for me to have changed and shifted so much that my child didn't recognize me. It was very, very strange. So it's okay for others to say, you've changed. You get that a lot too, a lot of judgment, from society when they say, you've changed and I don't know that I connect anymore. Worst case scenario, sometimes they say, I don't know that I love you anymore. And not that that's always worst case. Sometimes there needs to be a breaking of a contract at times when you wake up. So these are things that you can expect upon recognizing and developing your spiritual abilities. Okay? Change is the name of the game. Absolutely. Flow is one of my favorite alchemy words ever, but not my easiest word to teach about. We're going to get there in these level 2 teachings. Rosemary, early last Saturday morning. It scrolled up. Where did you go? Oh, you retracted the message. Okay, we'll put it back if you want. So let's talk a little bit about this, because what the guides wrote down was you might have some fuzzy boundaries that you need to work through. And you're going to feel kind of invaded, especially you empaths. It feels like a sponge being poured over by the ocean, which is why we teach frequency management in level 3, because it's actually hard once you open these gifts to manage them. And not just that, from the physical level, the differences in that vulnerability means that you get sick a little bit more often for the first anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. This is like opening a Pandora's box, and there's no closing it. So, germs, parasites, allergies may crop up that you never had before, particularly to foods and skin eruptions and things of that nature. I know that empaths are particularly prone to hormonal imbalances and thyroid disorders and Hashimoto's, Epstein-Barr, fibromyalgia. There's these common things that I see come out, and they were always there. It's not that the awakening caused them, is that they were there underneath the scenes, and it projected so deeply into the core beliefs that you really needed to focus on, but you are being consciously unaware of those core beliefs. And when that occurs, that means that your body will create a little sickness in order for you to connect to that core belief more and be aware of what core belief you need to integrate further so that these gifts can come out more. I know that was a long way to explain it. Is that making sense, how your body does that, and why the physical levels of you will be more... I need bifocals. My vision's been changing so badly. I just got these glasses like 3 months ago, maybe. And the more I shift, the worse my vision gets. So now I can't see as well close up. So I have to keep taking them off. I can't see the screen either. Bifocals. Gotta happen soon, probably after the Thanksgiving holiday. So you may be forced to just kind of stop and take what I call a grounding point and reground yourself. I call this a fluff break. Do something very 3D for a while. Watch a silly movie. Go laugh with some friends. Go do something that's not always meditation and disciplined efforts all the time. Yeah. Irritability, yeah. Because you're more sensitive, empathically speaking. Again, it's like a sponge being poured over by an ocean. So you may have to stop. And the biggest message I have for you today is if you have a big grand awakening and things are happening and you have to shift because your irritability is getting unmanageable, it's okay to take a break. So again, you're more prone to falling. Pay attention to where you step. This is a literal and metaphorical message the guides wrote down. You're more susceptible to kind of loss of control type of elements, such as vertigo, diarrhea. MS is a big one that I see, along with lupus. So this isn't to try to scare you, but this is to help you understand that everything that has been there since birth is coming up. And if you aren't conscious of it, your body's going to make you conscious of it. Don't worry if you have MS symptoms. What you need to do is cleanse it. MS is not a disease or a condition. It is a toxicity overload. So what you need to do if you find out you're having MS symptoms is to get some very good bentonite clay, a teaspoon and a half in the morning, and for a long time, cleanse it out. Mix that up with some lukewarm water before you eat, at least 30 minutes before you eat. Get rid of all preservatives, food colorings, especially anything with artificial sweeteners like aspartame and sucralose. All those sweeteners are not good. So, and toothache, yeah, my teeth went nuts. I lost like 4 teeth during the biggest awakening stages of my life, and I'm still waiting on 2 different bridges. There's one on this side that's really apparent when I smile. So that was one of the things that happened, and my thyroid went whack, and I gained about 80 pounds. And I've lost about 40 of it so far. So I've got a good ways to go after healing the thyroid disorder. So those are the things that come out. If you're experiencing any of the chronic fatigue syndromes, you might want to look at a fruitarian diet. And again, more cleansing and detoxing is the best thing you can do, along with getting some natural iodine. Take some natural iodine. I like Lugol's and Iodoral. Those are the two brands that I recommend for most empaths in the early stages of awakening with these hormonal imbalances are caused by a lack of natural iodine. It's just something that I've noticed as a medical intuitive over the past 17 years or so. So when you take a natural iodine like Lugol's or Iodoral, take about 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C and it will bump out. This is something a client of mine noticed, and I tried it because my guide said she was right, and it really worked. And I've been advising it to people since then for the past few years. So that vitamin C, when you take it along with the natural iodine, will bump out all the toxins that are causing fibromyalgia, MS, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease, all those sorts of things. Okay? Yeah, our eyes are changing. They're seeing the ether. That's pretty normal in these alchemy classes. It will come to that if you have the gift and it's innate. Raw beads, absolutely, but people have an interesting reaction to raw beads. When I first started cleansing them, which now has become a go-to because my body got used to them, take it slowly if you're going to do raw beads, just a little bit at a time, maybe once a week. Then when you get used to it, twice a week, one at the beginning of the week, one at the end, make it several days apart. So yeah, with raw beads, people have interesting reactions that aren't always good. You have to build your tolerance to them, if you will. What else can I tell you about preparing for your gifts to open? There's themes that I noticed in all of my spiritual awakenings. And here are some of the ones that I noticed in most that people go through the most. They go through money loss, stock market crashes. And this is like themes of the collective that we experience. Public figures who fall from favor. You know, there was during the biggest human conscious collective, we had a president impeached once. What else? I call this the chaos theory. Like basically things just start to fall apart so that they can fall together again. Yeah, the Redmond clay is really good for cleansing, just to back up on that, because Samantha was saying. Loss of friends and relatives, and not just they don't like you anymore, although that does happen pretty significantly. There seems to be a death theme. Where you are observing a lot of loss, like physical loss of people in your lives. And it's because alchemy is the understanding that it's about immortality. There is no such thing as death. So it is kind of preening you to the understanding that death cannot exist. Sometimes many of you, what I've noticed is that many people in my group, anyway, have this theme in my spiritual family and community of losing people. And then that person that they lost has a contract with them in order to awaken them to their natural mediumship abilities. And then they start to realize the truth about what they think is death and dying. So sometimes that may be the theme. So there's these little things that come up. I also call this the hero's journey in alchemy. That's a really common, way to describe it, because it's like one thing after another after another. So many people ask me this as a teacher, why do so many things happen to you if you are an enlightened being? And I'm like, well, first of all, an enlightened being will never profess to be enlightened. So you will never hear me say that, even if I was. Secondly, if enlightenment is not something to attain, it is something that is within you. It is in here, not up here. We're not going up, 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 up. We're going in. Okay. And then it's like peeling back layers of the lotus so that you can go deeper and deeper into not who you are, but what you are. So enlightenment is not something that you are striving for, reaching for, and then you're there and it's this pinnacle of achievement. And you're like, oh, no. Enlightenment is and then oh shit, and then higher and then darn it, and worse falls. Enlightenment is like the Fibonacci spiral, up and then down, and then higher up, and then more down. And then it's just expanding and expanding. The lessons are getting harder and harder. And the more you trust, the more allowance occurs, you will notice that anything can happen in your surroundings. I don't want to say happen to you, because I believe in the phrase happen for you, but initially it will feel like it's happening to you, and it feels helpless and powerless because you're getting rid of those paradigms of belief in powerlessness. So initially you'll feel everything's happening to me. Why are these things happening to me? They're happening for you. And then it'll be fewer and further between in terms of staging of the ups and the downs, because it's becoming a balance and you don't even notice them anymore because you are in your enlightenment. And when that occurs, grand things can happen, and you will still kind of feel a sinking feeling, and then a very quick victory follows when you lift your frequency again. I'm going to tell you a personal story. Let me see what time it is. Got about 10 more minutes. So yesterday, biggest test in my life. I've been going through this custody thing, even though I've had custody, it's more like a kidnapping situation. I've been going through it for about 2.5 years, and finally investigators found my kids, and they're in a really bad scenario. Their father had put them in a homeless shelter, and not necessarily a safe or a good one either. Not that any of them are great, but this one was particularly bad. And he found them, he located them, and I was quiet. I didn't tell my community. I didn't tell anyone. And I was getting all sorts of signs. Everywhere I went, I looked at the flashing billboards and it said grace. Another one said trust. Another one said allow. And everywhere I was going, I was seeing all these signs in the 3D. And I got there and I gave them my paperwork because I have official pickup orders. They're treating this like kidnapping and like runaway kids scenario. And I gave it to the cops, and they're like, I know that we said we can help you. And yes, we found them, but these papers aren't enough. They've expired. And I went, and I just exhaled. And I felt like all the up from when they found them. And yes, I have the papers, and yes, they can help me. I just felt that down. And I just kind of paused for a moment. I call this the grand pause, when you decide in your frequency what's going to happen. And I said, okay. And I just looked at him before I got all sad and deflated. I looked at him and I said, okay, what are my options? And he said, well, what's to say that you couldn't just go over to their schools and pick them up? I mean, the shelter advocate's there. You have appropriate paperwork, but just because you don't have this one little piece of the puzzle, you're still perfectly legal. Our station needs this one little piece of the puzzle. You can get it from a judge, but your orders are fine. So what's to say that you wouldn't just go over there by yourself? Why do you need us? And I was like, I don't have cops. I have to go by myself. And they're like, yeah, both schools are waiting on you. And I'm like, what's going to happen? He's like, well, they should just give them to you. You're on the birth certificate. It should be no problem. So I did the 3D thing. I called my attorney, and he goes, no, absolutely not. You definitely need this other piece of paper. You definitely need that. And you definitely cannot get that in one day. We're just going to take some time. You just need to go home, and we need to get that piece of paper and do this in this particular way. And I'm like, but what if I just go over there? And he's like, well, they may not give them to you. They may call the school board. What if the dad comes, and what if there's drama, and all these things could happen, and then they don't work. It doesn't work like that. They're not going to do it, Pamela. This is not what happens with the law. Just because you're the mom, you're not on the emergency contact list. Those papers aren't good enough because the cops aren't there. And he was like, but I know you're very gifted, and I know you're very intuitive. And if your intuition is telling you, you need to do it. And that's all I'm going to say. But if it messes up legally in your face, don't blame me. My advice is don't. And my partner looked at me and he's like, what are you going to do? And I'm like, huh. And then I started panicking, So there was a moment where I had to choose, and I cried for a moment, and I said, oh, I can't do this. He's right. What if it blows up in my face? What if they don't? And what if the guardian ad litem that we're working with doesn't deal with it? And my son, who's very intuitive, looked at me, my 15-year-old, and he said, you used to be brave. I mean, so brave that you are like a savage, and people don't see you coming. You're sweet and loving, and then you're boom. And I just looked at him, and I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, I am brave. what the hell am I doing? You know, and then I got so excited and I started like feeling the return of my frequency. And I'm like, I'm done crying. I cried for about 2 minutes and I just felt so powerless. And I'm like, wait a minute. No, that's not what I want to do. That's not the reality that I want to go towards. Because if there's a chance that I can follow my intuition and all the signs that I got this morning are accurate within grace and trust and allowance, you know, a miracle is going to occur. And that's what happened. I walked over and I just kept it cool. And I said, hey, I'm so-and-so. I'm the mom of so-and-so. And I'm leaving names out purposely. I'm going to pick up my kids. And they're like, oh, you got your ID? I'm like, yep. No problem. They're like, well, you're not on the emergency list. I'm like, but I am on the birth certificate. We got a place to go. Can you get them real quick? And I just kept it cool. Cool as a cucumber. And they were taking a little while. And then the shelter advocate came in, you know, where their father had placed them. And she goes, I know you're coming and I'm here to help you. And then they were there. And then she goes, do you have the other one yet? I'm like, no, I got to go to the other school. And she was on her phone. She's like, yeah, they're waiting on you too. So let's go. She met me there. She helped me in the same way. You know, not a problem. So you see what you can do in terms of operating with these gifts and trusting synchronicities. If you listen too much to what the 3D paradigms tell you, it can be absolutely disastrous in trusting your gifts, because trusting your gifts open you up more and more and more. But you have to trust. Because my guides were sitting there going, it's up to you. We're not going to tell you what to do. At some stage, your guides will stop telling you what to do and who to be and how to be, because they trust you to do it yourselves. You understand this level of development? It's a big, big deal. If I hadn't have listened, my kids would still be in homeless shelter right now. Against my will, against my knowledge even. I just found out. So do you see how precarious that can be if you don't trust yourself? When your guides stop telling you who to be, what to be, how to be, you got to take it upon yourself. Questions? We got 1 minute. It's a big maneuver of trust for me yesterday, by the way. Chat stopped flowing. Did I make you guys cry? Did I go offline? Nobody's talking. I better like look and make sure y'all still here. Yeah, y'all are. And I am. And nothing has stopped. Y'all are like completely speechless, which y'all never are. There's a lot of in-between stages in this, in all of this, when you're going to hit these little dynamics where things just kind of go, which is what happened to me yesterday. You had a question? When I lost my mom, I began my journey. However, as of late, I have realized that there have been times in my life that I was doing my work. Is it possible to be in your power without knowing? Absolutely. I was in my power when I felt powerless, because I felt that way and I needed to honor exactly how I felt. Now, that does not mean I needed us to go create a whole path and an immediate future based on that. But I really, really, when you feel powerless, it's okay to sit there in a moment, make it brief, please, and say, okay, I need to validate how I actually feel and hold a space for it right now. I sat there and cried in the middle of a restaurant yesterday. I had to just stop everything I was doing and halt and get some food. And I sat there with my partner and my son and I cried. And he was like, are you good? I'm like, yep. Tears. I just had to cry for a couple of minutes. I just had to validate how I was feeling. It doesn't mean you're off track. It just means you need to authentically let what's happening come up for you. It's like an onion peel that might be a little bit rotten and you need to rip it off, let it detox itself. I was sitting there crying while I was taking my order. I was crying while people were walking by. Some server asked, did you guys order this? And I'm like, no, sorry, I didn't order that. It was like, and then I started getting mad. I could feel the shift. So when you are in this phases of shift, you will find someone around you catalyze you, or someone within you, part of you will catalyze you. It was my child in that moment that catalyzed me, but I started to feel it before he even did, because he looked at me and he shook his head. He was like, oh, I'm not even saying nothing. I'm like, no, you need to go ahead. He was like, you used to be brave. I'm like, ooh, I'm not even mad that you said that, because it's true. I am brave. So there you have it. It is interesting to watch the frequencies shift as you're going through different levels of manifestation. That was a fourth dimensional manifestation, because I had to stop and cry and really face a very difficult part of me that needed integration, and then get back in the fifth dimension very fast. The fourth is a dimensional plane of existence where you can peel apart hard things and then jump right up to a higher frequency very fast. It's like a portal plane. You get me? Every time I'm starting on my work, I can't seem to get going. That's normal. I want you to go to YouTube when you get off here and look at a video called Motivation is Bullshit. I'm sorry for the phrase, but I'm not sorry for anyone it offended, but I'm not sorry I said it. Basically, I want you to listen to that video. It's by a cute little blonde, but she is one powerful, divine, feminine mother. And she talks about this, and it was the most powerful thing I've heard in a long time. In the book, what is it? Something Magic. Elizabeth Gilbert, Big Magic, maybe. In her book, she talks about this, about the different phases. Now, she says it in a different way than I do, but she talks about different phases of spiritual development that you have to go through. And that is all part of the phase. You do not require motivation in order to be on your path. In other words, do it anyway. You're going to feel motivated. Motivation is bullshit. You don't need it. I wasn't motivated when I was sitting there crying my eyes out either. I felt deflated. But all it took is a spark of memory of who I am. Just a spark. Just a brief little reminder of wonder. Oh, yeah, I am brave. I am strong. Who freaking cares? I'm doing this. When I feel helpless, I feel guilty by screaming at myself. You literally scream at yourself? But after sending my emotions out, I can breathe and feel the connection. Yeah, anger can be a very valid emotion. I felt my powerless core belief shifting from that into hell no. And I got angry. It was more of a frustration, not a legitimate anger, but wait a minute. Like, no. I'm not going to shame myself either, because that was a choice. For about 2 seconds, I was like, ooh, crap. My son's shaming me. Now I'm shaming me. I'm like, no. I'm not going to do that either. It's about being aware of your frequencies as they're coming and going, and you are observing them. They're not happening to you. You don't take them in and start to create with them. You observe them flow through you. And you're just watching like a river that's flowing in and out of rocks and trees. And you're just watching and observing. If you dip your toe in, it could be cold, it could be warm. You could get in the river if you want, but that depends upon the temperature and how fast the water is going. We don't jump in rapids without a life jacket and, at -0 in the water temperature. We don't jump in those kind of frequencies. We watch them. You know what I mean? So it's okay. I think that if you scream, you might be trying to get out a level of powerlessness, because anger is only one frequency away from power, from empowerment. And you are seeking something. That is why you're angry. So that needs to be validated. Just like my powerlessness generally doesn't come out in anger. It'll come out in tears. Okay. I do have to leave. Thank you for watching my time. I can never stop talking, you guys. I come on and I'm like, today's the day that I'm going to stick to 30 minutes, and then I can't. I love you guys. Thanks for coming to this class today. I know that I always throw a ton in and just throw it at you, but I have to. It has to be that way, because there's so much involved, especially in level 2. Level 2 is a hard. All of them are hard classes, but this is a particular hard class because it is the most emotional one. You're really getting through stuff in level 2. Level 3 is more about maintenance. Kickboxing? Hell yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I used to love it until I broke my wrist. And I think that was spirit saying, you love it a little bit too much. Calm that down. All right, guys. I love you so much. I gotta get going because I'm 7 minutes overdue to go spend some time with my kids and get some things done. I love you. Namaste.